Well, let's roll. It's June 8th at 6:07. Welcome. I call this meeting to order. If you would join me in a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the
to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America,
and
and
to
to
the
the republic
republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
liberty,
and
and
justice
justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. Per Governor Sununu, I'm going to read a checklist to ensure meetings are compliant with the right to know law during the state of emergency. Select Board meeting, June 8th, 2020. As chair of the Haverhill Select Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom conferencing for this electronic meeting. All members of the Select Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 1-929-436-2866 in the US, or by clicking on the following website address: https://zoom.us/meeting. Meeting ID number 967-3899-9348 and password 544286. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the town of Haverhill at www.haverhill-newhampshire.com. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 802-793-0535 or email at townmanager@haverhill-newhampshire.com. And D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Fred, are you here?
Present, and there is nobody in the room with me.
Steve?
I am present, and my wife and grandson are sitting here as well.
Matt?
Present, and I am alone.
Howard, are you on?
Come on, I want to apologize. I sat here for 10 minutes waiting for the program to come on, and all of a sudden this town computer starts to update, and it's been 20 minutes updating, and I couldn't get on. And I'm sorry. I am here, and I am alone with my dog.
Good to see you, Howard. I'm also here, and I'm alone. Agenda approval. We need a motion to accept the agenda as printed, please.
I'll make that motion. Steve.
I'll second it, Matt.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Matt. Any discussion? A roll call vote. All those in favor say aye, opposed nay. Fred,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Darwin, aye, unanimous. Consent agenda. We need a motion to approve the minutes of previous meeting, May 26, 2020, Select Board meeting, and also to sign manifest forms and other warrants. Is there a motion?
I'll make that one too.
I'll second that one too, Matt.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Matt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Fred,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Darwin, aye. Unanimous. Town employee appearances. Tim Northcott. Is Tim with us tonight?
Yes.
Tim. What do you have with us, Tim? What do you have for us?
I think there was a question on Haveridge Heritage Inc., the exemption.
Yes.
So the update is that they have supplied additional information, and it does appear to meet the requirements for exemption at this point.
So your recommendation is to approve them as charitable.
Yes.
Is there a motion to that?
Well, I've got a question first. Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
Okay,
We can have a motion and discuss it.
all right. Okay, let's make the motion, then we'll discuss it.
Do you make the motion, Fred?
No, I want to discuss it.
I'll make the motion.
Steve,
I'll make the motion. We accept Tim's recommendation.
motion by Steve, seconded by Darwin. Go ahead, Fred. What do you got?
My question is the tax exemption. What year is that tax exemption going to be effective? Is it going to be last year that they wanted, or is it going to be this year going forward?
This year going forward, it was denied for last year.
Okay, so they're not asking to go back to next year, the last year? Because they came in under the line there somewhere.
Not on their application, so not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
No.
okay, I'm good with that.
Okay. Is any more questions, comments? All right. So I've got a couple, Tim. So this packet that we received from their attorney, this only has to do with 16 School Street?
Yes. Yep.
So is there other property at 75 Court Street? Has that been granted charitable?
It has been.
It has.
Yes. So usually just new applications are brought in. The existing aren't brought up unless they're for some reason no longer eligible.
Okay. Okay. So I have a question in regards to that too. From what I read from the information that you or Bridget sent us, that charitable needs to apply yearly. Is that not true?
They need to fill out the forms yearly
They fill out the forms yearly.
and turn them in an A9 and an A12 form. Yes.
I see. Okay. All right. So on this application for 16 School Street, there's some misinformation here. I don't know if it's really relative or not, but it makes me question this whole document, quite frankly. But the purchase price is not correct. And in this application, the way I read it, $10,000 and 600 hours, they're considering not slight, negligible, or insignificant. I forget what that's called. There was a term for that, but I've been told that to renovate that house is somewhere in the $3 million range. So I'm wondering, I have never voted against your recommendation, but I wonder if this is still, I wonder if this is indeed slight, negligible and insignificant against a $3 million price tag.
Yeah, I don't know of the $3 million price tag, but my major question was if they'd started to do anything to preserve it, which is in line with what their purpose is.
Right.
And it looks like they've done some things to preserve it, and so that was my major question on it, and it seemed to be in line with you know, the purpose that they're organized.
Okay, okay. I also have a question, and bear with me here. I got too many pieces of paper floating around here. You had assessed these buildings, one of them for 185,000, I believe. Although I guess this is the one we're talking about is 185. But I'm also want to bring in the other one that's assessed at 237.8, I think. On their information that the attorney provided, their buildings, they have
Uh-oh.
they have their value at 971,000 and change. Whoop, what happened? Whoop, am I still on? Am I good?
You just lagged there, so you might want to rephrase that, restate it.
Okay, so according to Orr and Reno, the attorneys, they're claiming $971,000 in value. I wonder why the town is only, not that it matters if we grant them charitable, I suppose, but I wonder what the discrepancy is there.
Right. Yeah, I didn't see that valuation put on it.
And here again, this application, it seems to be commingling both properties, and yet they're only applying for 16 Court Street, or 16 School Street.
Right. That's the new application. So the other one had been exempt for years, and they do turn in their information each year, but this is one that they purchased recently. And the assessment on that one, the 185 was actually a Board of Tax and Land Appeals ordered value because they did appeal that value. I didn't set that 185. It was actually a state
Okay. Right.
board issued value.
Okay. All right. So here again, so this application seems to be for both pieces of property, but it seems like all the numbers are commingled here. Am I being foolish about this? What am I missing?
So on the 970 or 970,000 value.
No. You didn't explain that, but this whole packet seems to be, including their incomes. It goes back 5 years, and yet 16 School Street, you just said they only bought it this year.
Right. Well,
So-
no, I think they bought it in 2018, I believe.
All right. Okay. So 2 years. So, but they show 5 years worth of income.
Yes.
So that's why I wonder, this application seems to be for both their properties.
And it is.
No.
Yeah, so these are the A9 and the A12 applications that they file each year. But generally, we don't bring every exemption each year. We only bring new applications. So the new application is only for 16 School Street, and the other one was an existing application that had been approved. So they did file both for both properties. But the ones that really the new issue is the 16 School Street.
Okay. All right. So what happens if the work ceases on this rehabilitation?
It would be, they'd apply next year. At this point, it looks like they did do stuff for 2020, but if they're not doing anything further in 2021, it could be relooked at again on an annual basis.
Okay. All right. So you will look at, you you will look at it on an annual basis. Okay,
Yes.
because I'm kind of picking on you a little bit, but a few minutes ago you said that on the other piece of property, all they do is have to fill out the form. Do you still peruse that and look at that and make sure that it's correct?
Yeah,
You
I
do.
look at all applications that come in each year.
Okay, all right, that's not what I'm on. Okay, that's what I'm not understanding. Okay.
Just the new ones come to the select board generally.
Okay, all right. So what would the tax assessment, I'm not sure what our tax rate is. Jennifer, you can tell me, like $32 or something?
$30.30.
$30.30. So on $971,000, $971,907, we're talking almost, what, $30,000 in taxes?
On the main build, the original building.
On both?
75, or on all of it, yeah.
Yeah, well, their application has it for both of them, I'm assuming.
Okay.
So, so we're looking at granting HHI roughly a $30,000 charitable exemption, as well as granting them, and this doesn't have to do with you, Tim, but the town also grants them $8,500, I think, this past year. So the town is giving HHI pretty darn close to 40 grand as a pass, which doesn't have anything to do with you, Tim. It's just Darwin making some noise. Anyhow, thank you for answering my questions.
Welcome.
Are there any other comments, questions for Tim on?
I just had a quick question. So with the Wentworth Brown house, that's what we're talking about. I thought that I had read that it had to be in use in some charitable way.
Well, that was that was what I thought too, Bridget.
It has
And
to be
I know,
their purpose, their mission, whatever their mission and purpose is of HHI. And their purpose is to fix up these homes and everything. And that's what they're doing. They're fixing it up. So it falls in line. I read through it. I initially was very hesitant about it. I've had several conversations with Tim, but after looking through the documentation, I feel that they do meet the criteria in order to qualify.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? If not, take a roll call vote. In favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Fred,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Howard.
Guess I'll abstain from voting because this means that up Dale or Endicott Street, they could buy one of Ralph Wright's systems there and make that tax exempt too. I've got to have it explained to me better than this. So I'll abstain from voting on this.
Darwin, up, nay for me. All right, motion passes. You have others. I got an email late here, Tim. You have others you want to talk about?
So normally, the exemptions and the credits, Tim usually doesn't come and present them to you. But I did forward them, and while Tim's here, if you guys had any questions on, we have to be careful with some of the exemptions because we can't talk specific people. But if you had any general questions, there is another charitable exemption on that form. You'll notice that Tim has indicated that he wants to deny that one. Because it is not being used for the purpose, the charitable purpose.
if you all haven't had enough time to look at these, we can wait till the next meeting.
We can, yes.
Personally,
I haven't looked at them yet.
Yeah, I got mine about 15 minutes before the meeting.
Right.
Because of where I was with self-service, so I wouldn't mind postponing it if we could. Is that okay, Jennifer, in terms of?
Yeah, as long as they're approved at the next meeting, you can do that.
Okay. Okay.
The other thing is, I know it's later on in the agenda, but since we have Tim here, I didn't know if maybe you wanted to talk about the generators.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Tim, you're still on?
Yes.
Oh,
So I've talked
apparently-
with Tim
let me- I gotta
about
get caught up
this.
here on my-
Okay. I've talked with Tim about this pretty much since I came to the town. I think I've brought it up about the fact that the town doesn't assess generators, because that was something that was kind of new to me, not assessing a generator. And Tim had told me, like he'll tell you, is that most of the towns that he works for, they do assess generators. They provide value to the home. And so they do get assessed. Approximate value is about $5,000 on average. And we talked about the best time to start assessing them would be when we're doing the revaluation, which is next year. And in some of the things that I was looking up, I found this policy that we had that specifically prohibits the town from taxing the generators. So I wanted to bring that up to your attention because I think we should be assessing them. And Tim feels kind of the same way. And I'm sure he can tell you. And so if we were going to assess the generators, we would have to get rid of this policy that's in place. And we have about 94 generators in town.
Define generator, Jennifer.
Um,
Is it a certain
They-
wattage? Is it permanent? Is it permanently installed? Is it one you roll out of your basement? What is?
it's a permanent one.
Maybe Tim could explain it.
Yeah.
He assesses these in other towns.
Basically one that would be a permanent one. They're generally affixed. They're, and directly wired into the electrical box. The ones that'll automatically, turn on when you have a storm or power outage. Not the ones just wheel out though. So there's a value and a cost associated with installing those to a home, and they're generally assessed by assessors and appraisers as they recognize that they do add some contributory value to a property.
Do they depreciate? Or is it like, if it's $5,000, it's $5,000 forever?
And 5,000 is sort of the average. So there's different ways. You can either have a flat rate for them, or you can apply them in the PAMA software. There is a place to pick up if a property has a generator or not. And so in that case, it would be in addition to the building value. In that case, it would depreciate. But that's kind of a base guideline of 5,000 is typical in the towns that I've worked in over the years, and probably close to 50 different towns that I've worked in. The vast majority do value them. So that's been my experience.
So when they get devalued, there's no tax on them. There's no assessment, zero, right? It doesn't add to the value of the property if it goes down. If they're devaluing every year, it's got to get down to zero, so they eventually don't add value to the property.
Well, if done with the building, it would just depreciate as the building depreciates. So you'd have a percentage that would apply to the impact of that generator to the building. You don't usually get down to zero depreciation on the building, unless the generator is not there or, not performing its function.
One of the complaints I've heard the last few days is that people were assessed, like you said, $5,000, but it cost them like $3,000. It cost them less to install it, have it installed, to buy it and have it installed than that, and it didn't seem equitable somehow. I mean, this dates back to 2011, so I'm assuming that's before your time, but I wonder what the history is behind this. Do you have any info for that?
No, I don't. I was just notified when I started that it was ruled that they're not valued here. And 5,000 is really kind of a typical. There'd be an analysis done before any final value is put on anything. That's why I suggested that it would be a good idea to do it at a revaluation time where you
Right.
could conduct an analysis and really get a zeroed in number or idea on what impact it has on the value.
Okay. Okay.
So let me get this straight. I have a generator. It's 10 years old. It's on my property. It's built in. Is that still a value to the property, but even if it's 10 years old, as if it were brand new?
Well, most likely not as if it was brand new. Like I said, it would depreciate with the house. So I mean, if the house had 30% depreciation on it, that would be a component of that valuation of the cost to build the house, and it would depreciate along with the overall building value in that case.
Well, the only problem I got with generators is they're going to disappear a lot longer than the house is going to. The house is going to outlast the generator many years, many years. So if you're depreciating a generator the same as you're depreciating a house, you're saying that generator is going to be as long as the house is going to be here, and that's not true. You're going to be replacing generators every what, 5 or 10 years maybe? I don't know what the lifespan is, but you're going to have to replace them. And so if you're going to replace them, you want to tax them, that's fine. But put a yearly value on a generator. Don't just add it to the house and now you got one and that's it. And now you go buy a new one. And is the value going to be higher for taxes or is it going to be less? What, you know? So if I have a generator that's 5 years old and it dies, you're going to tax me on the 5-year-old generator. It's dead. Now I go buy a brand new one. You're going to charge me more next year in taxes for the brand new one?
No, it's sort of a general. I mean, it's a general value that comes up. What we're doing is mass appraisal, so it's not exact. What we normally do is look at what's called a paired sales analysis, where we look at 2 houses that sold, one with a generator, one without, and determine the contributory value of the one with versus the one without, and that would be the value that would be used. You know, so it is an amenity. It is something that is seen to add value to property when you analyze the sales of property. So that, again, that 5,000 is and the depreciation are examples and not finalized really until you get into the analysis. But I'm basically just indicating most towns do value them, and here to try and inform and answer any questions. But I do see your point, and it wouldn't depreciate exactly at the same rate necessarily, but there are more than one ways that you could do it, either as a flat rate that does depreciate down or as a component of the building, which the mass appraisal software does support.
Darwin,
Howard,
if I could have some input here. Back when this got put in to being, there was I think it was not a plan, but say you had 1,000 households in town and you had 100 generators and you had a catastrophic happening and you had 100 households that you didn't have to worry about, basically, because they had their own power. It wasn't that, it was a load off the town. But at that time, I had bought a generator for a house and it was $3,200. And the assessment was $5,000. And this was an install price. But to add to Fred's question about longevity, the one house that I had the generator purchased for, the generator comes on once a week and runs 20 minutes. It ran 10 years. It ran 160 hours. Figure it out. It only ran less than 2 hours on emergency time, and all of this was the other 10 years, and it was junk. I had to replace it. It had 162 hours on it, and 2 hours were an emergency and the rest was all test time running. So I think this is something that ought to be thought about a little bit more, because it's not cheap to have a generator and maintain one. And the business of depreciating it, it just doesn't figure out. I think we need more time to analyze this. It took time to come up with a plan of people wanting to invest the money to have one and not be a burden to the town when the power goes off. So I just think it would take more time to think this out before we just voted out of town. Thanks.
So Tim, in terms of information on instead of attaching it to the house, which we all seem to be having a problem with, the value to the house, can you send us information on a separate, on just the generators and depreciation? How that would work? Do some towns do it that way?
Yeah, so it's either it's built into the building value, or it's usually done as an extra feature, which you would have to manually depreciate it based on the condition of it, which is harder to keep up with. But you know, if the information is brought in that it's getting close to the end of its life, you could manually depreciate that feature if you do have a 10-year-old generator that's going to need to be replaced. But usually the way we determine that value is like I said, is just looking at what impact it has on a selling price and trying to isolate that value, because people do tend to pay more for properties that do have generators overall.
Okay. All right. So do we want to vote, gentlemen? Or do we want to think on it?
I'll make a motion to table it till we have more information.
Motion to table by Matt. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Howard seconds it. Is there any discussion? So my question is, like, what more information, and what information are you looking for?
Well, because you're to me up here, when someone goes to like Howard said, goes to the expense of putting a generator on, in some places it's a necessity. We have a ton of trees up here, and when power goes out, sometimes it goes out for a while. And like Howard said, he makes a good point that, you know, it is kind of, to some people it's essential, and it's just, as Fred brought up, it just doesn't seem to be equitable, because you can get a guy who buys a $2,000 generator, you're gonna bang him $5,000 on an assessment, and you get a guy who has a $10,000 generator and he gets banged $5,000 on this. It just doesn't seem equitable. I don't know. And you're gonna start getting to depreciation.
Big difference is you got one that sits on the cement slab most usually, and the other one's got wheels on it. The one that has wheels on it doesn't get charged. That's very unfair.
I agree. And how about like a power wall? If you have one of the Tesla power walls, it does the same thing as a generator, but yet that wouldn't be taxed. It's still connected to the electrical system in the house. You know what I mean? It just.
Okay. All right.
I just feel like you're penalizing somebody for being prepared.
Exactly, Steve. That's kind of what I'm looking at, because like I said, a lot of people, I mean, I live off a Class 6 road. I mean, you know, when you know, we lose power over, you know, a lot. So, you know, and who knows, you know, I agree, like what Steve just said. It's kind of how my feeling is.
So are you removing your table?
Yeah, I'll remove the table.
Move to table. And it was seconded by Howard. So a question, Tim, before we vote, are they all taxable? I mean, in terms of fossil fuels versus renewable energy, are they all taxed the same way?
Generally, the key point is if they're affixed or not. With most things, if they're intended to be permanent or intended to be temporary.
All right. Is there any more discussion on the motion? If
So
not,
can I just have a second?
Sure.
Okay, so just, in looking at this, one of the things that we are trying to do is people are always complaining about the tax rate in town and how high it is. And we look for ways to try and bring it down. With this generator, you're spreading it out among the people that have it, and you're looking at almost $500,000 in assessed value being added to the town for these generators. It is something that owners benefit from when they sell their property. As Tim has said, people will, if you have two identical houses, one with a generator and one without, people will look at that and say that, they want the house with the generator because they want that security. They pay that additional money, which is how assessments are done. Assessments are based on what people are going to pay for it in the market value. And so assessing something that has a value for the house, is how we do things. And I think, it's just something to consider that, there's about $500,000 that you're looking at adding in assessed value if you reverse this, which would go towards helping bring the tax rate down to some extent.
So you said there were 94 generators in
Yes.
town? 94? How many houses, what percentage of houses is that, roughly? What is that, 10%, 20% of homes, roughly? Ballpark, just a ballpark.
I'm not sure of the exact number of improved. There's 4,000 parcels in town, but as far as vacant versus improved, I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, okay, so you get 94 people who are going to add $500,000 in taxes to the town. 94 pieces of property are going to add $500,000 to the town, but the rest of the people aren't going to add it because they don't have a generator.
Assessed value.
Assessed value, all right.
Assessed value.
Assessed value. Okay, I don't know.
Oh,
I'm a city kid living in the country, and I got trees balking against my power line right now, and I want to put a generator in, and I'm going to do it no matter what, sooner or later. But my power goes out quite a bit, every once in a while. I've lost it for 5 days. I didn't have a generator. But now, if I'm going to be assessed more, my tax rate's going to go up. I might live 5 days without a generator because I don't want to pay the extra. I'm paying enough for taxes, honestly, like everybody else is. And they say the same thing. Taxes are high, and there's no reason to start increasing them, making them higher. And if we can just keep taxes down some way or another, that's what I think we need to do.
so the motion is to table.
I think
Is there
Matt
anyone
removed that motion.
I remove it. I'm gonna make a motion to deny the taxing of generators. I don't think it would be, I just think there's too many variables. I think up here, like Steve said, it's more of a necessity for some folks than anything else. And it doesn't address other things that are the same as generators. So are we gonna tax somebody who has hydro, micro hydro, or how about someone who has a wind turbine? It just, it's not equitable because someone chose to go with a generator, What if the person is completely dependent on a generator for their primary power? What if they power it 6 hours a day and they, charge up their house? I mean, that's their only, you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be equitable. So I'm going to make a motion to deny it.
So who seconded your original motion? Howard?
Howard did.
Do you withdraw your second to that motion, Howard?
I will withdraw my original second. But if it goes to a vote to deny it, I feel uncomfortable because I have 5 generators at different places. And I feel that I don't have any axe to grind. I've already voiced my opposition to taxing them, but I don't feel that I can second it, but I won't be able to vote. I don't feel comfortable voting on it.
Okay. So when the vote comes, you will abstain?
Yes, I would second the motion to not tax them, but I would abstain from voting because isn't it a conflict if you, we have 4 in-place generators and we have 1 portable generator. Wouldn't that be a conflict?
If you don't feel comfortable voting on it, Howard, then I would not vote on it.
Okay. I will second it though.
Okay, all right. Is there any more is there any discussion on Matt's new motion?
Which
So-
was, again, please,
I'm sorry?
which was again, please, the motion is what? Second, Matt's motion is what?
Is to keep the policy that we have in place, which does not tax generators.
Okay,
That's correct, isn't it, Matt?
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Any more discussion? All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, nay. Fred,
all right,
Steve,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Howard,
I abstain.
Darwin, aye. Motion passes. Anything else? Anything else, Tim?
No, I believe that's all.
Okay,
I have another question though, on generating power.
okay, go for it.
Okay, what about, there's all kinds of ways of generating power. Solar panels, wind turbines, God only knows what. Are those things taxable? I mean, those things go into assessed value? I know solar panels should because they're attached to the building and they'll last as long as the building. A wind turbine, I don't know how long that thing lasts. And all these other little gadget things, I have no idea what they do. So are those assessed values as well? I can see solar panels being assessed with the house. They'll last forever, pretty much, unless someone comes down and damages, then your insurance pays for them. But what about these other things that generate electricity for people? What?
Yes, they can be valued, and in many towns there are exemptions that can be applied to those. If you have solar, if you have wind power, you can apply then if the town adopts a solar exemption. Well, the key thing on anything with adding value is can you see that thing actually adds value in the sales that you have to look at. So in Haverhill, we haven't had many sales of wind power or solar, so they have not been valued because we just haven't had that sale data to suggest what they're adding. But yes, many towns do value them, and then they do have an adopted solar exemption.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tim, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Well-
Town employee appearances, Colton Grant, hazard trees. You still awake, Colton? You with us?
I am.
Talk to us about hazard trees, please.
What do you have for questions?
I want to know when we did this last and how much money it's going to cost us to do the ones that you have marked.
Well, I haven't gone out and gotten any quotes.
We need to know which trees you're all approving before we can do that.
Okay. Okay. But so you're going to put it out to bid, Colton?
I would say yes, because I've been around the hazard tree removal, and we need to pick wisely on which ones we do.
So when you cut down a hazard tree, do you de-stump it? Do you leave 3 feet of stump? Does it depend on where it is?
Depends on where it is, Darwin. Because I mean, if you're going to cut down a tree that you're hitting with your wing or something, you might as well leave it up if you're not going to take the stump down, because you're still going to have something to hit.
Okay. Okay.
It all depends on where it is, my opinion.
Okay. Well, you're marking the trees and you're the road agent, so we value your opinion.
I know, I'm really leaning towards the Clark Pond Road. There's one there that I think needs to come down before the road opens. On the 116 side. I think that's real important.
So you're gonna make that happen?
I'm gonna get some quotes on it.
Okay.
But the other ones, what are your guys' thoughts on the other ones that you've seen? I know you had some questions about some on Sand Road, which I did too, but.
I traveled all the roads. French Pond Road, my big concern was the power line poles, actually the telephone poles or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Which doesn't have anything to do with trees, but that seemed to me to be the biggest hazard I saw out there. But Sand Road, I actually traveled Sand Road twice. I have numerous questions about the trees there. I wonder if maybe if you would please look at that again. There are a group of pines that are quite a ways off the road that are tagged, and yet a little ways further down the road, going from from county towards Brushwood, there's a maple tree that is literally cantilevered over the road, and that one is not marked. And then a little further along towards Brushwood, there's a pine tree on the left that's marked. And if that falls down, it looks to me like it's going to fall down in the field. I don't know how that's a hazard to the road, but so I guess I would feel better about Sand Road if you were to look at it one more time.
Can do this.
And although this doesn't have anything to do with the trees, I wonder what your plans are for Sand Road in itself. And I know I'm kind of going off topic here a little bit, but as long as we're talking about Sand Road, I don't want a 20-minute oration necessarily, but are you looking at doing some repairs to Sand Road?
Yeah. Bridget and I actually have it in the works. It's probably not this year, but there's some stuff we could do this year down on the Brushwood side, with opening it up a little bit more, getting some drainage done. Because in the spring of the year, that's a problem, a big problem.
So you might want to get with Howard at some point. I think Howard's got some information about that end of the road that would be helpful.
Okay.
So any other questions on hazard trees, gentlemen?
Yeah, again, I'm full of questions now.
Good.
There's
Good.
hazard trees. There's the hazard to the roadway. There's hazard trees that are they our responsibility to the power lines? Because I saw on County Road, there's a number of trees that are a hazard to the road, but they'll take out, if they go down, they'll take a power line down with them. So whose job is it to take care of those trees? And the part that hasn't been addressed is directly overhead. The tree may be 10 feet off the road, but the limbs may hang out and be 11, 12 feet off the road, and you can't drive a legal truck, a vehicle down the road without hitting the limbs. So what do you do about the limbs up overhead, which are, over the years, they're shading the hill on Brushwood Road is becoming shaded, and you have more accidents on that road on the north end, where there's no sun can get in anymore, than any of these other places. I can look back at I spoke at the last meeting, 20 or 25 meetings, and in machine hire, I had thought we was going to take down a few trees every year. The town crew is capable of taking down some trees that are not too hard to take down, and the problem trees, you hire someone in under machine hire, and it would be a project the same as mowing roadsides, ditching, do so much each year. I'm not sure if they're really looking at doing this project all at once. It's going to be quite a project, but there are three, looking at, the other thing that I saw when I traveled some of the roads, I didn't get them all done, but some areas were flagged really, really strongly, and in other areas, when it was near anybody's house, were they all out of bounds? Or I saw some pretty bad ones that were on people's property, and I think they should be flagged. If they're a danger, they should be flagged and address it if we can't get it addressed with the homeowner. But I don't think we should go around those when we're flagging trees. The whole length of the road should be, I would think, tagged the same, looked at the same way, no matter who owns it. I won't go on anymore. It's going to be quite a project, but I'm glad it's being addressed.
So Colton, this is a multi-year process, is it not? A continuing process?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
I think you addressed the ones that on Sand Road. I noticed the ones, I call it the old Ackerman place there, that they seemed like they were well off the road into the driveway, and I questioned those.
Yeah, that was a request. But that was my thoughts on it as well. But just put them out there, we marked them. Because there is limbs that come off from that into the road, but if we did it for that place, then we'd kind of have to do it for every place.
Colton, are you talking about the group of pines?
Yeah.
Because so Darwin and I talked about that, and that was my thought too, that it was more about being proactive and not having to go out and remove tree limbs from the road. But I don't know how often you have to do that. And I assumed that's why you marked those.
Yeah. It's just mainly in the winter when the snow is heavy.
So you're looking, what are you looking for from us, Colton? You're looking for a motion to allow you to cut the trees that are tagged? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking for, and
okay.
Then I'll start getting quotes for.
Okay. All right. So I'll make that motion with the caveat that you relook at Sand Road, and then whatever you decide, we're good with.
Okay.
That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Fred. Any more discussion, gentlemen? All in favor?
Yeah, are we
say-
putting I have a question. Are we going to put a price on this project or a cap or?
It'll just depend. I think Colton and I talked, and we're hoping to find a contractor that wants to come in and do the work for the trees and try to mitigate the cost that way.
Removing for firewood, you mean? Yeah. Okay.
Or softwood. Maybe Darwin could speak better to the value, but I've heard from a number of landowners, so is Colton. And so we're starting to understand which landowners would like to keep their trees. It's not many so far, but it'll be our responsibility to reach out to every landowner and have that conversation to see if they're going to keep the trees or not. So it'll depend on all of that as to whether we can mitigate the cost.
Gotcha. And the trees will be taken down and stumps left, with the exception of the ones that Colton identified as interfering with the plows, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Question on that, Darwin.
Sure.
If are you going to be looking at, what portion are you looking at someone taking the trees down at no cost? Are you looking at a certain percentage would be taken down, the ones that have value, and the town would be stuck with the rest of them? Because if they're looking at taking down the rest of them, are they going to be looking at a cost of per tree or by the hour? How, because a lot of these trees don't have a heck of a lot of value. And if you're working around power lines and or taking, just having extra men in the road on traffic control and things. I really question whether you're going to have much of this done and not cost us anything. If you can get it done without costing anything, I'll be there dancing on the table, telling you did a good
Yeah, I'm
job.
not sure if it won't cost us anything, but we definitely want to try to mitigate some of the cost. And we can piggyback the hazard tree removals with the trees that are along French Pond Road, which are part of the French Pond Road project. So hopefully there's enough trees to be taken down that somebody finds value in it. We'll see. We'll see. We'll keep reporting back, let you know how that goes.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Those opposed, nay. Fred,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Darwin, aye. Unanimous. Moving on. Thank you, Colton, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Colton.
Scheduled public appearances. HEEC Committee Broadband Cellular Status. Is there anyone from the HEEC on?
No.
No. Okay. So I brought this up 2 or 3 meetings ago. I had and I still have serious doubts as to progress. And we are now a quarter of the way through the year. And since the HEEC doesn't seem to have anything to report, I think that pretty much sums up their progress. I guess I would just like to, I would like to just dump this in Bridget's lap, and let's get something rolling here, because my biggest concern is that the HEEC seems to be reaching out and contacting people and then either not doing what they're asked to do or ignoring the advice. And sooner or later, the goodwill of these people that are willing to help us is going to dissipate. And I think that's going to leave the town in a really bad spot. So I guess I'm going to make a motion that we take this out of the HEEC's hands, since they don't seem to be doing anything. And they're not a town sanctioned committee anyway. So I guess I make the motion that we give Bridget something to do in her spare time. And so that's my motion. Let's let the town take this on and move forward. I think it's the only way we're going to move forward. That's my motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Seconded by Howard. Is there any more discussion?
Absolutely.
Is there
Absolutely.
any discussion?
Absolutely. I sat in on a 2-hour video presentation from the North Country Council on cell phone coverage for areas that don't have it. And what they were concentrating on was not cell phone service, broadband, okay? Trying to get cable internet or something to the towns that don't have it. Listening to that 2-hour conversation, there are, I forget the names of the towns, and the presentation is online somewhere. Forgetting names of the towns, there are people who've been working with different towns together as a group, selectmen from each town getting together, spending at least a year, having discussions with cable companies, having discussions with the state over a year, this whole group, and they've gotten nowhere yet, okay? You cannot put this in one person's hand. You cannot give it to a person like Bridget, who has all these other things to do. It is impossible. You need a group of people who are dedicated to this, to move forward with it, take it as their only task, and keep going forward. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be a battle and a long haul, And you're gonna have to get several towns together to get the numbers of people that you want. Once you do that, you can start going to these companies and saying, okay, we've got 10 towns, we got 5 towns, this many people, this area. We want broadband. Forget cell service. That's out of the question. We want broadband, okay? Now you're gonna have to go to companies. Which broadband do you want? Well, you want broadband, excuse me, you want a broadband that's gonna allow a house to have at least 2 or 3 computers online. My house, we have 2 computers, 2 cell phones, an iPad online all the time. We have high-speed internet from Spectrum, and we can run all those devices at the same time. You don't have enough input to run all those devices. You have 2 kids in school and somebody else is on a computer, someone's not gonna be able to access the internet. This is a very, very, very difficult thing to do for one person, and it's gotta be dedicated to a group of people. That's why I was happy to see the HECC trying to do it. They're not doing well at it, I understand. And honestly, there's no money involved in this at all at the beginning. All this investigation and discussion requires no money. There's no money necessary, but it's not a one-person job, guys, not even close.
So Fred, so I know what I said. I didn't literally mean, Bridget, you do this by yourself. She has got, she has other means. I agree with you. It's going to take a group of people. The group that is attempting it now is not being fruitful. So I hear what you're saying. Exactly. I think we're saying exactly the same thing.
So do you want to start a subcommittee of the select board? Put one person in charge of it with a group of people on volunteers? I would not put it in Bridget's hands in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it's going to take a tremendous amount of work just to run through the basics, even to set up that group. She doesn't have the time for that.
Let's let Bridget do her job.
That's not part of her job. That is not part of her job. I'm sorry. Getting cell service in this town, getting broadband in this town is not part of her job. Her job is managing what is existing right now. That's her job. And improving
I
on
know
that.
one of the biggest concerns of the public in Haverhill is that there's a lack of cell coverage. And so both last year and this year, you know, the one question on the survey that I sent out that came back astronomically high with an overwhelming response was that people want cell coverage. So though I understand completely what you're saying, Fred, and I certainly don't want to do it all by myself, I don't feel like I would be. I know that, you know, the HEEC has tried to tap into different groups that are already moving in the right direction with this. I'm not sure what why they're stumbling. I'm not really sure why, because I've, you know, stopped attending their meetings. But I read their minutes, and I'm in constant communication with the North Country Council, who has been spearheading this sort of thing. And there have been a number of times where Michelle has given them information or reached out to them. She CCs me, and then nothing happens. So, you know, she's the one who organized the grant opportunity for them, and then they weren't able to come through on that either. So that concerns me as, you know, town manager, and I'm sure it concerns you as selectman, that we've had these opportunities in the last 6 months to get the ball rolling. The money was appropriated by the people in March within, you know, with that warrant article for broadband cellular, and we haven't really done anything. So, and I get it, COVID hit, but, you know, all of town government kept going. You all never missed a meeting, and there's still a lot that can be done, and those other groups are still moving forward. There's a selectman in the town of Benton who's been in communication with the HEEC as well. So Benton's looking to coordinate with Haverhill. Warren is getting towers, and Newbury set aside money for this sort of thing. So everyone around us is doing something, and I don't really feel like we're working together at all. So I'm comfortable reaching out to our sister towns, the ones around us, and, you know, at least getting together with them to see where we're at. And then, you know, getting with AT&T, I know that the tower that went up in Bath is an AT&T FirstNet tower. The towers going up in Warren in the next year are AT&T FirstNet towers. And when we were at the forum, the gentleman there from AT&T said that that would help improve our service in general. And I've heard nothing more on that either. So I've just kind of stepped aside and let the HEC do whatever they were going to do. But now I'm getting a little anxious and I'm getting eager to find out, you know, what can AT&T do for us? And if AT&T comes back and says, you know, these FirstNet towers aren't going to help you as much as the gentleman stated they would, then, you know, going back to some of those service providers that came to the forum, you know, there was a gentleman there who was indicating that for about $50,000, he could get fiber optic cable through North Haverhill. Whatever happened with that? You know, we haven't heard another word. So I'm eager to hear, you know, what are our options, and let's move in some direction. Let's figure out what it is we want to do and let's move on it. So if that's work with AT&T, partner with AT&T to get those towers, you know, equipped to provide cellular coverage to our general area, let's do that. If it's that's not going to work and we need to go in another direction, let's start talking with those companies that came to the forum and see what services they can provide us to get broadband into the town so that we can provide our own cell coverage. Something. Let's do something. I don't want to wait another year either. I don't think people want to wait another year. We're 6 months in already. So I'm not going to do it alone, but I am willing to start reaching out and doing a lot more of that. I haven't done any of it because, like I said, I just kind of stepped aside and let the HEC do whatever they were going to do.
Is there any more discussion, gentlemen, on the motion?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, we don't know what we don't know. Nobody's here from HEC to say maybe something has, you know, shaken out in the last couple of weeks, you know.
No, they sent an email
like
back.
I said, if Bridget is going to work. They did?
Yeah. You want me to read it?
We got it, don't we?
You all got it, yeah.
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 And so
we all got it.
basically, so it's up to you. I can read their response, or you can read it later, but they have they have ideas. No real plans.
Well, they want to meet after they meet with the NCC, right? Is what I'm getting at it.
Well, they said that they met with the North Country Council on May 7th.
Right, I read that.
As for collaboration with adjoining towns, we're working with Benton, the same gentleman, William Darcy, and realize now, based on the recent broadband forum, that it is going to take power of several towns. We already knew that. They have a planned meeting, with the North Country Council on June 18th to give us a clear idea. We are excited to have Stephanie Martson from Woodsville High School. She's a new member of their group. That's about it. Broadband cellular here. Then everything else is what we already knew. So it sounds like they do have a meeting scheduled with North Country Council again on June 18th. I don't know who that's with. It's probably with Michelle, I would hope.
I don't know.
I'm not sure what that meeting is for.
What bothers me about this last email, it says, the last line, it talks about, I would encourage you to review our business survey report that includes a number of recommendations to the select board. And then we meet monthly the fourth Wednesday of each month, and the next meeting is June 24th. They didn't even talk about coming to the select board meeting.
No, and they were invited and they declined. That's what this is about.
Oh, the
is
heck with them. The heck with them.
I had asked them to come tonight and give an overview of where they're at and what their next steps are. And they responded with this email.
Even if they read this letter, if they said, hey, we're gonna meeting with NCC, and can we wait till we get back to you after our meeting, we'll go from there. That would have been something, but just to not, I don't want to come, I don't want to respond, no.
No, that's not what they said, Fred. They asked if they could delay a meeting with us until they had more information for us. That's what the letter says, the email says.
Yeah, that's what it says, but we asked them.
Right.
We asked them to come to this meeting to tell us where they are. I don't care if they're saying, hey, you know what? We came to this thing to tell you that, hey, we're gonna go see the NCC and we'll get back to you right after that. I just feel extremely upset that they haven't got the respect of the select board to come and say, oh, by the way, you asked us, here we are, and this is what we're gonna do for the town, and we're gonna meet with the NCC, we'll get back to you. Don't even wanna do that? Do we really need them? I don't think so. I'm sorry. That just irritates me.
So are you changing your position, Fred?
I'm kind of changing my position. I still don't want Bridget to do it because I think she's buried. But
Well, look at her track record in the last year. How much she's got things done.
yeah, I understand.
She'll probably tell us if she gets overloaded, but why not? We got to go back to town meeting next year and somebody's going to say, what have you done with that $50,000? And we don't have a damn thing to show for it. Can't we give her, if she's got some teeth, let her go and see what she can do. If she can pull HEEC together and get them to work in the other towns, let her try it. And I'd ask, call for a vote and get it done tonight.
I can go with that, but Bridget, you gotta tell me you gotta say one thing. You gotta turn around and tell us, hey, look, this is way beyond what I can do. It's really taking a lot of time. I need this much kind of help. I need these people. When it gets to that point, you need to come and tell us and say, hey, I've gone as far as I can. This is really burying me. Because you're gonna go deep into this.
I'm gonna bring it back to you all anyway, so you're gonna know where I'm at.
Okay.
What I found.
So Howard moved the question. Howard moved the question. So those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, nay.
It's been a bit. Can you repeat your motion, please?
My motion is to have the town manager dive into broadband cellular service. And there was a second by Howard, I believe.
Yes.
She's been sitting on the sidelines, and I'm asking the board to bring her into play. Is that what you were looking for, Steve?
Well, I think so. I feel like HEEC has done some work, and I'd like to keep them working. And if they need a little boot to keep them going, and Bridget's the answer, then I'm all for that.
Well, I hope that's the answer, because that's my motion.
Okay.
Any other questions on the motion?
Yeah,
Those in
just,
favor?
so your motion, Darwin, basically wants to have Bridget take a more active role. And like Steve said, if HEC has got some leads, they'll collaborate, correct?
Absolutely. If Bridget wants them and work with them, and that helps us both, that's perfectly fine by me. I don't, without Bridget spearheading this, I don't see this as going anywhere. So she can use whatever she needs. Those in favor, aye. Those opposed, nay. Fred?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
Darwin? Aye. Moving on, public wanting to address the board. Is there anyone, Bridget?
Not that I can see.
Okay.
Anybody? If you are, unmute yourself and speak now. I think it's just the press is
Okay.
on, so other than you all and Jennifer and I.
Pending old business. Ambulance service contract with Woodsville.
Yes. Which document do you want to look at first? Do you want to look at the correspondence or the agreement that we were provided by the ambulance service in Woodsville for your consideration?
You tell us.
I guess that's probably what we should look at. I think you've all seen the rest of it. You probably have already looked at this a number of times too, but so a little bit of background. This ambulance agreement was provided to us after, upon my request, because we received a budget request from Woodsville Ambulance for the 2020 budget. And the question that was returned to them was, we don't have a signed agreement by the board. So how can we, you know, in other words, if you put this value that you're asking for into the budget, you're pretty much already approving it without an agreement. So we discussed that back in, I think it was December, that they had provided us with a budget number, but we had no agreement for the time period it was going to cover. And so we asked for the agreement from July to July. I don't know why it's July to July either, because that doesn't correspond with our budget year, but it is at this point, July to July. We received it, you can see here, on January 15th, 2020. And I had some questions when we received this agreement, and I outlined those for the board back in probably January, obviously, because January or maybe the first meeting of the next month, I don't remember. So a couple of the things that were of concern here that we talked about back then was the you can see the number here, the 4,712. They use that number as the population for Haverhill, though that's high for Haverhill. So then we went back and asked them how they were getting that number, and they said they gave us a description of how they were coming up with that number. It was not how the town, or for any municipal purpose, establishes the population for Haverhill. We use the census. And so the census is done every 10 years. The last census was in 2010. However, the census, the US Census Bureau does provide estimates for Haverhill every year. And I used the estimate for, I think at that point it was 2018 was the most recent estimate. I could be wrong, but it's around there. 2018, 2017, 2018 was the latest estimate. I used that number. And used their $23.50 per capita number that they were going to charge us, because they were increasing their rates for 2021, and came up with a number that was not this, was not $110,732. So if you remember all of that, when we went through the budget process, the select board, I'm going to get out of here real quick. The select board agreed to the number that I had calculated rather than the number that the ambulance service was asking for. So I'm going to share this email, which shows you what that is. So you can see here, I used, I can't see it through all of these people. So I used the 2017 estimate from the US Census Bureau. In 2010, we had 4,697 people in Haverhill, according to the US Census. In 2017, their estimate for Haverhill was 4,574 people, which is much lower than the 4,712 that the ambulance service was using. So like I said, I calculated, oh, and then the other thing was the value for the first half of the year, which I think was my error, because this contract is July to July. So I was proven wrong later from this statement here for the first half of the year. So the 4,574 should have been calculated against the $23.50 per person charge from the ambulance for the service year of the new contract. So anyway, that's how we got to where we are. And then you all decided that you wanted to wait until closer to July to talk about this agreement again. So you put a certain number in the budget that covered the lower per capita number for the population of Haverhill. And now you're being asked to consider this agreement. Couple things. Hopefully you've read through it. You've had a few months. Number one, you're not obligated to sign this agreement or agree to this agreement. You're not obligated, from what I've been told, to sign any agreement for an ambulance service. And that will not keep the population of Haverhill from having access to those services. There are other ambulance services in the area if the town still feels compelled to have an agreement. Or you can go ahead and sign this agreement modified. It's really up to all of you. That's kind of the background. That's where we're at. You all wanted to look at this again closer to July. Here we are, we're closer to July. So now is the time to consider this and decide one way or the other. Jennifer, do you have anything to add on this one? Maybe she's muted.
There we go.
I do not.
Okay.
So go ahead.
It's totally up to all of you.
My first question is looking at their budget report they sent out last year. In the bottom line, they got $10,000 for village manager.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not going to come into play what we're asking to pay them, correct?
Right now, that played into how they came up with their, I mean, I would assume that's their budget is how they came up with their rate per person.
So when
Correct. So if I can answer that question. So by hiring a district manager, the ambulance service was going to pay $10,000 that comes from the entire budget towards the district manager. By doing that, the ambulance service has eliminated a manager's position. So we're not paying an in-house manager. We're contributing to the district administrator, if that's voted on the 17th. So that's what that $10,000 is.
Well, do you have a manager now for the ambulance service?
We do.
You do.
We do, but he's retiring.
Oh, he's retiring. Okay.
He's retiring. So
Right.
the manager's position used to be a working paramedic's position, and it paid around 65 grand a year. And so as time goes on, if we get through our precinct meeting and we hire the district administrator, then that person's gonna run all the departments in the district, and that's the ambulance service's contribution to that position instead of paying $65,000 for one person.
Steve, can I ask a question?
You can. I'll try to answer the best I can.
Yeah, no, it seems we're knowledgeable about this stuff.
I've worked there 31 years.
Oh, okay. So out of the $10,000 that they're putting in our bill for Haverhill, are they doing that with all other towns or
That's
just Haverhill?
$10,000. That's the entire budget for the whole ambulance service. So it's $10,000 divided between 8 towns and the patients that pay us. So it's not $10,000 only for Haverhill. That's $10,000 for the year, out of the whole budget.
Steve,
Yes.
so did you say that right now the ambulance manager makes 65,000?
Well, Dick doesn't, but that's Dick took over for the guy that was making 65,000. He was.
So he's going to retire, and now you're kicking in 10,000 toward the district manager so that you don't have to have an ambulance manager, but the rates went up. You would think the budget would have gone down by 55 grand if that was.
No, we still have to staff that position. We don't have to staff that position with a manager's pay. So it would be the same as like I am. So when I got done as manager of the ambulance service, my pay got cut. So we won't have somebody coming in as a paramedic plus manager's pay.
Okay.
So is the 10,000 equivalent to what the manager's pay would have been on top of?
I can't honestly tell you where that number came from. That person's gonna be overseeing the water and light, the highway, the contracts with the water and sewer treatment plants, the ambulance service, the fire department, everybody. So I don't know exactly where they got that number of who was gonna kick in what, but every department is gonna kick in something to pay for that position.
So the ambulance manager you have now is also a paramedic. So he's getting two different salaries, one for
No.
each position.
No, it's a higher salary because it's a management position.
So he's getting a higher salary for being a paramedic because he manages paramedics. Correct?
They manage the business, yes.
Right, they manage the business, but he's also a paramedic.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sure that you don't get paid the same as your coworkers to manage your.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to get it straight in my head.
No.
All right, so when he retires, you're going to have a person come in to replace him as a paramedic, correct? And he's going to, and what else? Is he going to do something to manage the paramedics or the ambulance service? Or is that going to go straight to this village thing you're going to have, this village guy?
So the administration will go to the administrator, and then
Okay.
we'll do something in-house with some operational stuff, but it's not going to be like personnel management and things like that.
Okay, so he won't be getting the same as this person that's leaving.
Correct.
Okay,
So I guess again, I mean, at a minimum, it should have been a wash. Right?
Well, everything's more expensive. I mean, I don't have the specific budget right in front of me right this minute. I can pull it up.
I don't,
Your payroll went up almost $10,000.
Yeah,
And you just said it should have gone down.
I didn't say that. So we have a minimum of 2 people on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, you know, those people deserve cost of living increases and things like that. The benefits packages go up. So, you know, $10,000 increase for payroll, I don't think is
Okay.
crazy for the whole ambulance service.
So without beating Steve up too bad on this budget that I'm sure he didn't create.
I didn't do it this year.
Right. So we could always ask someone to come in and speak to us about this. But Bridget, you said that the town wasn't obligated to have an agreement. We would still have ambulance coverage.
That's what I've been told. I haven't been able to verify that in the RSA yet, but that's what I was told. And I was sent the RSA. I haven't had a chance to read through it to find the exact, I can't find, I don't have the citation for you yet. But from what I understand, the town is not obligated to sign an agreement with any ambulance service. And that does not stop an ambulance service from needing to respond to an emergency call. And as you can see in their budget, they have patient fees, and these patient fees are fees charged to the individuals that are picked up by the ambulance service. Now, I do understand, and we were told, I think by Dick Guy, that the town assessments through these agreements are meant to cover the costs of patients who have no insurance, who cannot pay. That's what the intent, I mean, maybe Steve can clarify if I didn't hear that right when
The town assessments, the town assessments pick up the difference between what we collect and what we need, basically. I mean, that's, you know, it's just, it's like, you know, it's like any business that has contract fees and user fees or whatever. You know, we lose money on Medicare and Medicaid patients every day. and the only way that we can continue to work, and since I started there in 1988, you know, we've always had an assessment for the towns, and we've worked really hard to keep it as low as we possibly could for all these years. And you know, that's always been the job of the ambulance services, to keep the tax requirement down to the minimum. I mean, you know, we're peddling patients out of Dartmouth 3 days a week. Right now we're down to 1 day because of COVID, but you know, I mean, we're putting trucks on the road to try to generate income so that we don't have to ask the towns for as much, but there's that gap.
So I have a question about that. So I've reached out to a couple of other towns that have ambulance services, and I have not found an ambulance service yet that doesn't make a profit from their ambulance service. Why is Woodsville's ambulance service so different than the ones that I've reached out to? And in some cases, they say that they make a lot of money off their ambulance service through transports and other in their other calls, that they're actually bringing in money, a surplus.
I don't know of many. I know Lancaster probably does. They do a lot of transfers. They so they bring in probably more money than we do. But I worked in Lancaster for a period of time, and at that time the town supplemented us. The town of Lancaster, for instance, they also contract other towns. And so they are charging other towns for their service. Upper Valley's charging $40-something per capita. I managed the place for 12 or more years, and you know, there's only so many patients that you can peddle, and we've tried hard to pick up every one of them that we can. Like I said, we're at Dartmouth 3 days a week when we don't have COVID, taking patients out of there, going to other places. But it's an expensive business to operate, and the reimbursements from Medicare and Medicaid are terrible. They're just terrible. And I don't know how many more hospitals you can go to and take patients. You know, Littleton Hospital's got ambulance services that they use. Plymouth's got ambulance services that they use. So, you know, we do all of the non-emergency work out of Cottage. We do 3 days a week at Dartmouth, and I just, you know, we're trying to make money wherever we can make money, but it just doesn't fill the whole gap.
Steve, can I ask a question?
You can.
What is this is a question I had last time. What is the actual legal entity that Woodsville Ambulance operates under? Because I was unable to find it listed as a Department of State as either Woodsville Ambulance or Woodsville Rescue, because our checks were going to the precinct.
It's Woodsville Fire District.
Well, that's the precinct. But
Yes.
does this, so it's the same entity? In other words,
Yeah, it's the same tax ID number as the district, and you know, just like the water and light and the sewer treatment and the water distribution, it's all the district.
it's the same tax number?
Yeah.
How does it get, is there a state certification involved? And so the precinct has the state certification to run the ambulance? Is that how it works?
What do you mean a certification? I mean, we're licensed. The state license.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, we're
Right,
licensed.
so it's the precinct that's actually
Woodsville
licensed.
Fire
So,
District is licensed. Yeah.
right, but there is there's no entity known as Woodsville Ambulance, correct?
No, it's Woodsville Fire.
Like this. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then I have a question.
I think they refer to it as an enterprise, and again, that's not something that I've ever been
That's what Dick Guy, you're right, Dick Guy used that term. He said he called it an enterprise.
And I'd be lying to you if I told you I fully understood it.
Nor do I.
So my question, and I know that the board has asked this question in the past too, you know, you show there's $15,000 in this budget for building rent. But the ambulance is owned by the district, run by the district, and then pays rent to itself.
I guess in theory, I guess you can look at it that way. You know, they don't, I mean, there's upkeep and stuff on the building that the district does and things like that. So it just kind of offsets some of that stuff.
And so the maintenance line, what is that for?
Vehicles,
Maintenance on vehicles?
vehicles and equipment.
Okay.
So Bridget, when do you think you will have more information for us?
Definitely by the next meeting. I should be able, well, I don't know. I guess it depends. What information are you looking for? So I definitely will, if you wanted to know exactly whether the town is obligated to sign an agreement at all, I've been told that. I can get you the RSA by the next meeting, if that's the question. If you have other questions, throw them at me and I will make sure I get them answered before the next meeting.
Well, that's certainly one question that I have. The other question I have is, so let's suppose we don't sign an agreement. So how will the town will not be charged for this service then? It will be to the people who are requesting it. Is that right?
Correct.
It would, yes. I mean, they are anyway. And then if the ambulance happens to pick up a patient who has no insurance, that what I've been told anyway.
I don't believe that the ambulance has an obligation to go.
That's the question.
I do not believe they do.
And so I've been told that they do, but that's definitely the answer I need to get for you.
Yeah.
Is that if there's a call through dispatch to the ambulance that someone's having a heart attack, they cannot refuse to go.
Okay, so that is the question, and then in terms of how things are paid for, I guess, how that would be structured. Those are my questions. So I make a motion, we table this till next meeting, we have more information.
Okay. Do you have other specific questions you want answered other than obligation of the town and obligation of the ambulance service?
I'd like to know what the actual annual total cost would be. I know, is it based on what you came up with, Bridget? Is it going to be the 53,744 times 2 now?
That's, honestly, what you decide. I mean, you need to decide whether you want to sign this agreement for the 2021, July of 2020 to July of 2021, or do you want to modify this agreement accordingly, like something else? Do you want to modify the population and send it back and let them know you want to modify the population and end up in those back and forth negotiations with the ambulance service? Do you want to, you need to decide what you like and don't like about this agreement.
Okay,
It came from them, and now you have an opportunity to give feedback. I mean, that's really how an agreement is supposed to be arranged, is that, both of the sides agree before not one side sends it to you and you just have to agree. That's not how you negotiate an agreement. So that's why it's going to be before you to decide what do you want in this agreement, and what do you want to send back to the ambulance service in relation to how you feel about all of this. So
I just had a simple question, really a simple question. On the January 13th memo that came out, the service agreement, you've got a period of January 2020 to June 30, 2020, with a per capita value, then you go to July to December, right? So again, you get two different values for that.
Yeah.
And you said this is going to go from July to July, right? So based on your numbers on this last January 13th document, if we go with what this says, that 53,744.50, which is for July to December, would be doubled for the annual, correct?
No,
No.
no. So you are obligated, you are already obligated for the $19 and whatever cents it was that for the current agreement through July 1st.
Until July 1st.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you're not obligated to anything after that. So you all have to decide at this point what you want in that agreement.
But
So
but wait a minute, when you put this document together, you told us what it was, January 1st, 2020 to June 30, 2020. We're obligated for that, right?
You've already, yes.
Okay,
That's-
now,
That's paid at the beginning of the contract year, the
Right, now.
July 1st.
the next
Yeah.
contract begins July 1st, 2020. On your document, you went from July 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020.
Yep.
Why didn't you
And
go
so,
to the following June?
because that's our budget year. So our
Ah.
budget ends.
Okay,
This was in relation to our budgets.
okay.
And
So-
so I was trying to determine how it was going to impact the 2020 budget.
So the contract year was, in 88, was decided between the 7 towns at that time that we served to be July to July, so that towns that supported us could raise the money at their town meeting, and then they could collect their first tax bill and pay for the July to July contract, so that it made it through the town's fiscal years easier. So that's how the July to July, and that's when we got it from the hospital. It was Cottage Hospital Volunteer Ambulance Service until July 1st of 1988, and they could no longer operate it. So
Right.
that's when the district.
Yeah,
So for me, I mean,
I'm
for me, I'm just not comfortable having the board agree to a budget number for a contract they haven't signed yet. That's all. That was my,
But I'm looking at this July 1st to December 31st. I know it's our budget year, but we're paying for the following July. And if looking at your numbers, if we go with, just say we go with your numbers that you have on the sheet, whatever it is,
yep.
we're looking to double that from July 1st to December 31st actually gets doubled. I know it's going to go to 2 budgets, but the cost actually gets doubled.
Yeah, half of it will have to be included in your budget for
Right, okay.
2021.
That's what I was
Yep.
trying to get at. What's the annual cost? No matter when the year is, what is the annual cost? I'm good.
Okay.
I'm done.
So I made the motion to table this. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second that. Okay, Matt can second it.
Is there any more discussion?
I just think that we need to, I think we need to deal with it, because July 1st is coming, and I want to make sure that the people in the town of Haverhill have an ambulance service July 1st, and
So I guess we gotta be ready at the next meeting to decide.
Absolutely.
but we've got to have a plan to do something different if we're not going to sign this contract.
I would make a suggestion to think about maybe if we're still trying to hash this out and we're still trying to make an agreement with Woodsville, maybe we could extend the existing agreement with Woodsville for another 2 months, see if they would go with that for the time being. Just a suggestion, just to give us more time to come with them and say, okay, guys, this is it. This is what we're going for. What do you think? Unless you want to just completely do it next meeting.
So
Because if we go to, excuse me,
at the next meeting, we should have more information in order to make a more informed decision here. So keep it, absolutely, Fred, keep it in your mind. We're going to have all kinds of options, I think.
well, what I'm getting at is if the next meeting, which is going to be almost at the end of June.
Yep.
And we say, this is what we want to, this is what we're going to pay Woodsville. And
Yep.
Woodsville comes back and says, we don't want to accept that. Okay, now all of a sudden, we just ended our contract. Now what have we got? Until Bridget finds out, we don't know what we've got.
Fred, but this contract was, see what the thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around is the town is funding the precinct. to provide ambulance service on a per capita basis.
Right.
But anybody who has Medicare, Medicaid, or health insurance, they're also getting billed if they have insurance, correct?
Everybody
So-
gets billed whether they have insurance or not. They get billed whether they have insurance or not.
Oh,
Everybody.
okay, so if I'm an uninsured person and I happen to be shopping in Haverhill and I fall down or I get hit by a car and you guys pick me up, I get taken to the hospital and I'll get a bill from Woodsville Ambulance.
You will, and it does not get forgiven. It does, it's not, you know, I mean, it's not like you say, I have no money and you don't have to pay us. You have to pay us.
I understand. So basically what this is it's a service like any other service.
It's a service
So-
contract.
No, but what I'm saying is for the individual who is picked up, it's a service. Currently, it's a service that our town doesn't provide, but we have contracted out to have someone pay. So Steve, just correct me if I'm wrong. So if right now, today, if someone is uninsured and they get hit by a car and you guys pick them up and transport them, and they're a Haverhill resident, they're gonna get a bill?
Yes.
So then why are we paying on a per capita basis then?
Because that's the way that we've always done the contract fee. I mean, it's a common business practice in the ambulance service to contract to towns. It's
Right, but we're paying money for the town residents, so what are the town residents getting in return? Like that, like, are they getting billed a different number then? Like, I don't,
No,
like,
no.
I don't see.
No.
I don't understand it. Just try to help me understand it.
It's a contract. It's a contract service. It ensures that somebody's going to come when they call. That's what it does.
Yeah, but right now, so when 911 call goes out, they don't ask you if you're a Haverhill resident. They
Nope.
just dispatch fire and ambulance. So.
Whatever yeah.
Right. So if somebody gets hit by a car in, God forbid, in Haverhill town here, the ambulance and the fire department are gonna roll. And if someone needs to go to hospital, they're gonna go. Whether or not there's a contract, whether or not they're gonna get a bill for it from from Woodsville Ambulance, correct?
If we transport somebody, we submit a bill. Yeah, they get a bill. Irregardless.
Okay. And if it's a Woodsville, if it's a Haverhill resident, they'll get the same bill as someone who, say, lives in Vermont?
Yes. It's illegal to bill different rates.
That was my next point. I was gonna ask that.
It's
Okay.
illegal.
Yeah.
It's in Medicare rule. Medicare is kind of the ruler of all evil, and it's in Medicare rule that you can't bill different rates. You can't accept less money.
The service is the service, correct?
Right.
Okay. But then isn't that in fact what you are doing? If the town is paying a certain dollar amount for all of our residents, you're already receiving that amount. So if they're gonna get a bill, aren't they getting billed more then? Because they're already paying into this, or is this considered like a donation? Like, I don't see how
No,
it's
a contract. It's a contract fee. You could call it a standby fee if that made
Right.
it set better with, of your thinking of it. It's a contract to ensure that there's two people and an ambulance ready to go when somebody calls 911.
right, but if there is no contract, the ambulance is still gonna go and they're still gonna bill the person.
Not necessarily. There's no obligation to go without a contract. So
Hmm.
So if the town of Haverhill didn't sign a contract, you wouldn't have an ambulance then? Well, I guess you would. You could go to Monroe.
I can't
Benton.
speak for the fire district commissioners, but
I just don't see. how
there's
that's
no
happening.
obligation. There's no obligation for them to go if there's not a contract.
But how would you know if it's a town? Like, how do you know it's not some tourist from Massachusetts that's in an accident? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
It's
to me,
a geographical area.
Oh, so you just wouldn't respond to anything in the town then?
That's, I think that's a possibility. I'm not going to speak for the commissioners, but I don't believe that the ambulance service is obligated to respond to a non-member community. So
How
if
many
Lisbon-
calls can I just ask Steve, how many calls did we have last year in the town of Haverhill, outside of Woodsville?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
Could
All
you
right,
find
so-
out for next meeting, maybe? I'm just
Yeah, we
asking.
can, I mean, that data is all available.
Okay,
We run about 1,200 calls a year for the entire area.
I was just curious to see what our particular town is, because you guys cover like 7 towns, right?
8, yeah.
All right, gentlemen. All right, so we need to move this along here. We need to move this along.
Okay.
We got more agenda to deal with.
Yes, sir.
So all good questions and good conversation, but we need to move this on. The motion was made and seconded to table till next meeting. Those in favor say aye, those opposed, nay. Fred,
Aye.
Steve,
Nay.
Matt,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Darwin, aye. Motion passes. Come prepared next meeting for all kinds of possibilities, gentlemen. And Bridget, please, as soon as you get information, I know you usually do, but give us some time to think on it if you could, please. Pending old business.
Steve-
Primex bulletin. Private business use of public premises during pandemic. I'm hoping you all got that email.
Mhm.
Where you read this? I'm not exactly sure why this is on here, Bridget.
Okay, so this one was on the last meeting, and we had talked about this particular bulletin and a potential policy related to the use of public property. And Jennifer might be able to speak to it better, but the only individual business that we could think of that currently is within the realm of this potential policy would be Vindogs using the town property across from Aldridge's. Primex sent this out because they have concerns about the use of public property. So Jennifer, do you want to speak to this a little more?
Yeah, so just Primex sent out the bulletin, and yes, right now, the only one is Vindogs, but this could potentially be for anybody else. When somebody uses town land right now, the policy, we know we've gone back and forth on this. The policy is just that they need to provide us with a copy of their liability insurance. And this document from Primex is just asking if we want to make it part of our policy to include additional areas due to the COVID-19, so that if something were to result, if somebody was to catch COVID-19 or something when they were going to Vindogs or another vendor that might use our land, that they have this additional insurance here that, you know, the person would be covered if they weren't following proper procedures and protocol. Or we can just leave our policy alone. So that's what we want you to consider right now.
So if somebody goes to Vindogs in COVID-19, doesn't wear a face mask, doesn't stay 6 feet apart from strangers they're with, and goes up there and gets COVID-19, town's responsible?
Yes.
I believe that's what this is saying.
Yep.
Really?
There's been some case law already on that, where they're showing liability, and now when people are going back to work, they're showing employers even. It's something we're going to have to look at when we bring everybody back into the town. We're going to have to take certain steps because there is liability involved if you don't.
Okay. Then the town needs to be protected somehow.
Yes.
Because
Well, it's a good idea, I think, like you said, to regulate how our property is used. I mean, no one can just come into the Clifford building and just set up shop. I mean, I don't see the difference, whether it's the Clifford building or it's the 13 acres on Benton Road. We should have an ordinance on how that's done.
I don't disagree with you, Matt. I think the question tonight is whether or not we want to buy more insurance for this now.
No, we're not buying the insurance. We're requiring the vendors to get additional insurance, is what this is saying.
It doesn't, it doesn't cost us anything.
Ah,
It protects us.
But the
Protects us, yes.
But the problem is, we don't have an ordinance, so if Vindogs or whoever's using that property says, yeah, I'm not doing it, we have no means to enforce our will on the town land. And that's not fair, because the town property is owned by the people of the town, and they should have a say on what goes on their property.
So,
Are you recommending that we develop a new policy that the board consider?
I'm sorry,
I
Bridget?
think it might be good to just to require them, because we require them to provide liability insurance. I think there's nothing wrong with us amending our policy to require this additional insurance that will cover the town in cases of pandemics and infectious diseases and things like that. Just to be safe. And I know that the board and the previous board tried to put together, and Fred did a lot of extensive research on this to try and come up with a policy or ordinance and everything. But I think, to wait around, you could be opening up the town to a little bit more liability if we don't, do this now.
So what this is,
go ahead.
sorry, Fred. So what this is doing is on top of, we're already requiring the proper amounts of liability according to that, correct? The insurance?
I don't think the policy that we have right now states the levels of insurance that they have to have. It just says that we need to receive a copy of, it just says they need to have liability insurance, and we need to have a copy of that.
And this document to me says, and this document to me says that they're requiring the person to hold the town of Haverhill additionally insured and indemnify them. That's kind of the big difference, is those two things, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
For anything arising out of disease or pandemic.
so presently we have a means of enforcing what we're asking for. Is that true?
How? No, we don't.
I'm just asking, do we?
I don't
No,
think
we
we
need
do.
a-
It's just
We
a
need a new
policy.
policy. We need a new policy.
Okay. Okay.
That was my point, yeah.
Okay.
so there's not a policy in place that requires them to be insured?
There is, that is
Policy,
true.
But not, but not an ordinance. A policy, but not an ordinance.
It's a policy, but no means to enforce it, Steve. That's pretty much it.
So if they say I'm not getting insurance, we have to let them stay on our land anyways.
Well, pretty much. If I wanted to come into the parking lot of town offices and set up a bouncy house, I could do it. Nothing they could do to me.
I hope it's big enough that I can get
The
in
way
there.
it stands now. Oh, it will be, don't worry.
Okay, so if we want to enforce this liability insurance and the indemnification, we need an ordinance. I think we should do it, but I don't think we need to wait till town meeting. We need to call a special public meeting to pass this ordinance. Because summer's coming, he's
I
gonna
agree,
be out
Fred.
there. He's gonna be out there all
Summer's here.
summer long. He's already started, and who knows who else may come along, and we need to have this in place. So if we want to do this, we need to have a special public meeting to discuss this and see if the town will vote for it, to put it in an ordinance, and then
You might
enforce
not need a town meeting.
it. No?
You might
gotta-
not.
If you're gonna have to pass an ordinance,
Well, our lawyers determined that you didn't need a town approval for your plowing across the roads ordinance.
Right.
There's certain things that the select board has the power to adopt. So
Then
we'll look into it further. And,
Yeah.
and I think what would be good is for us to come up with a draft policy for the board to consider.
Yes.
Well, we should be able to enforce what our insurance company recommends that we enforce, shouldn't we? Without
Yeah.
going to a public meeting?
What's that?
Well, I would think it would, yeah.
I mean, our insurance companies is suggesting that we do this. We shouldn't have to go to the public meeting to say, this is what our insurance company wants, this is what we should do.
I think you're right, but I'll find out for sure.
There's,
Mhm.
don't, now when the vendor supplies a certificate of insurance, the amount is stated at that time, and it should be at least $1 million, right?
I believe that it's stated at the time, but apparently we don't have a requirement for a limit.
Well,
Well, we don't,
if all you gotta do is change, if $1 million isn't enough, certain stores we deliver milk to Hannaford's require $2 million. All you gotta do is change the certificate amount to state the amount that you want.
Right, but that doesn't cover this additional problem that they're suggesting with COVID, Howard.
what this is saying is, we're gonna raise it to $2 million, and we're gonna include the town of Haverhill. Right now, the town of Haverhill isn't included in the $1 million coverage he has. So we're gonna raise it to 2 million and include the town of Haverhill, so the town of Haverhill is covered under the policy as well.
We should actually have additionally insured for any contract that the town has. It's very common. I mean, every commercial contract that I have for plowing has indemnification and additionally insured. That's why they get so much money.
Yeah, we do for all other contracts. For whatever reason, this town use of town property doesn't have it that way.
It's probably the most important one.
Okay, so are we good with waiting for a draft?
Well, we need to find out if we can pass the ordinance first, for sure. We'll let a
That
public
too.
meeting,
That
and then
too.
we get the draft and push it through as quickly as we can.
Okay,
This is the season, man.
okay. All right, everyone good with that? It's a plan. All right. New business, we already took care of the generator. Acceptance of CARES Act funding per RSA 21-P:43. Airport grant of $20,000. First responder stipends, $20,157.14. Gopher grant, $111,176. And we don't have FEMA yet. So are you looking to a motion to accept all three of those, Bridget?
Yep. So under RSA 21P:43, it states that I can accept this money. However, the New Hampshire Municipal Association has stated that it's good practice for these types of very large grants from the federal government that the select board also approve them, of us accepting them. So I talked to Jamie Dow just to get clarity, and she has indicated that the acceptance of these grants has no negative impact on our appropriations and the purposes of our appropriations. So it's money that we're accepting for a specific purpose, and it's for reimbursement of actual expenses related to COVID.
So is there a motion to accept CARES Act funding per RSA 21-P:43?
I'll make that motion, Matt.
Motion by Matt, seconded by
I'll second it.
Fred. Is there any further discussion?
I've got a question.
Please.
So far, the Gopher money is, what you sent up, Bridget, was like $41,000. But with this, we can go up to $111,000.
Yep, so the federal government gave New Hampshire, or allocated, like, I think it was $40 million for municipal grants under the Gopher, through the Gopher. And so what they did was they took that money and they distributed it amongst all towns, dividing it up per population. So we were allocated the up to $111,000 toward COVID expenses through that particular fund. There might be more coming later. We haven't heard yet whether it'll be refunded, but as of right now, that's how much money we've been allocated toward COVID expenses. So the money that the spreadsheet I sent you, I think I sent you the spreadsheet. If not, I sent you a summary of what we have submitted for reimbursement to date was through May 30th. So the next round of reimbursement, the next round of expenses for reimbursement can go in as of July 15th, I think. And then the next one is through August 30th, if I'm remembering the dates correctly. So there's 3 opportunities to send in for reimbursement. We've done the first, and we've spent almost half of the money that they allocated us. But, you know, I think that unless somebody gets sick, I think we're through a lot of the large ticket items, which were related to staff outages and lack of childcare. Now that childcare facilities are opening back up, I'm hoping that stays the trend. Then we'll see a downward trend on spending related to COVID, which means we'll be fine within the $111,000. We have received the first responder stipend already, so that will be paid out in the next pay cycle. We're going to be paying the stipends directly to our police officers, and then we will be issuing 1 check to Haverhill Corner Precinct for their fire department staff, and they will distribute that according to the spreadsheet for those that were eligible. And we're waiting for the airport. Actually, I have the airport grant I have another document I have to sign to send back, and then they'll send us the $20,000 for the airport. And we're just waiting for the reimbursement check from the Gopher for that, like $45,000. But I have heard from other towns that they've started receiving their checks from the first reimbursement round. So we're expecting that soon.
Any more questions, comments? Those in favor of the motion, aye. Those opposed, nay. Fred?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
Darwin? Aye. Town managers report, comments?
Sure. So I won't take up as much time as I did last time, but I'll share with you the Town of Haverhill Fire Department has met 3 times. All meetings have been very productive, but they're getting more productive as we move forward, I think. The June 2nd meeting, the group elected a formal chair of that committee. They elected John Buffard, who is currently a resident of Pike and here in Haverhill, and he is also the fire chief in St. Johnsbury. Very knowledgeable, been in fire service most of his life. So he was elected by the committee as the new chair of that committee. I think he'll do a great job. Just so everyone who might be watching over Facebook right now, these meetings are posted on Facebook. They also are posted on the Vital Communities listserv, and you can find a link to these meetings on our website calendar. So I urge the public to participate in those meetings. If you want to speak at a fire department meeting, it's important that you let the chair know that you would like to be acknowledged. Otherwise, the public really isn't going to be given an opportunity to speak at these fire department committee meetings because they're all working meetings. But if there's something that the public wants to bring to the attention of the fire committee, it's really important that you either reach out to a member of someone on the fire committee, or you, like I said, you reach out to the chair and you ask to be acknowledged, and you can be put on the agenda as someone from the public who wants to address that committee. Those are the ways that you can be heard. COVID-19 preparations, we've talked a lot about this. The board just approved the acceptance of various grant funding. None of those are loans, they're all grants, so none of it will be repaid. We also have some FEMA expenses. The reason there was not a FEMA number for the board to accept is because you have to have at least $3,300 worth of FEMA expenses to be able to submit a request for that. And we haven't reached that number for the very specific things that they allow for reimbursement under the FEMA grant. Very specifically, it's either first responder overtime, masks, direct responses to COVID. And we have not, the town itself has not had over $3,300, mainly because the state has been giving us PPE. We haven't had to purchase it. So we haven't reached that $3,300 limit yet. Now, if we do, then those will go into the FEMA portal and I will request reimbursement up to 75%. Right now, I'm putting them on the Gopher refund or Gopher reimbursement request, and they're paying me 25%. They're paying us 25% of that. I'm expecting that eventually we're going to get to 3,300 and we'll be able to put it in the FEMA portal for the 75%. However, if we don't ever get to the $3,300 limit, then I can send it in under the last reimbursement request and they'll pay me the difference. They'll pay the difference. So it's something we just unfortunately have to keep track of so that we don't lose sight of it. County road, there's no new action on that. I'm having a hard time finding an auctioneer. I don't know if that's COVID related or there's some other reason, but haven't gotten a lot of really good responses for that one yet. We're still working on it. Lime Kiln Road, I'm working with Primex right now on this this claim. And so unfortunately, the lady that I need to work with has gone out on vacation and she'll come back the day I leave on vacation. So this, you will not have a new answer to this probably till the next meeting, maybe by the next meeting. Clark Pond Road. So Friday, June 5th, we signed the contract with Austin Construction and issued the notice to proceed. They're going to start work on the Clark Pond Road Bridge on June 22nd. So you can expect that the contractor will be out there mobilizing on June 22nd. And I've already asked the ATV Club to move the trail. So it's important for the public to know that the Augie's Bypass Trail will be moved from Woodard Road to Briar Hill Road prior to June 22nd. And I've asked the club to make sure there's plenty of signage per the request of the select board to make sure that the public knows that the trail has been moved during construction. The Woodsville lawsuit. So at the last meeting, I reported that in the newspaper, we found out that the Woodsville precinct had filed a suit in court, in Grafton County Court. We had not been served at that time. We still have not been served today. However, through other means, we were able to get a copy of the documentation that was submitted to the court. And we're going to be, Jennifer and I will be looking that over and working with our law team just to determine how we're going to proceed. So until we're served though, there's really nothing formally that we can do to respond to that. And as of right now, we have not been served. Status of requests for bids. So I went over this list at the last meeting, so I won't go over the whole thing, but you can see at the bottom, the Center Havel Armory renovation bid has been canceled. All the bids came in too high. Electrical services, I put that out to bid and we had no bids received. So I'm assuming that that's because electrical contractors didn't want to sign a one-year contract with us, and that's fine. What I'm going to do is go out and I'm going to get quotes for service from as many electrical service contractors as I can in the area and see where they fall on the scale. French Pond Road paving is nearly ready for advertisement. I sent the draft of the specification documents to the board today, as well as the road agent and to Jennifer for their review and feedback. I would really like to get that out to the newspapers for advertisement tomorrow. So if anybody has strong feelings about anything that they've read in there, I know I already got comments back from Jennifer. There were some good comments I got back from her, so I'll make those edits. If I don't hear from anybody else by late day tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead and send the advertisement to the newspapers so that we can get it out for advertisement and for bid. I'd like to get the work rolling. Colton is already proactively working on a number of things related to French Pond Road, but I'll get to that a little bit later. Center Haverhill Armory roof quotes. So what I'm doing right now is I just need to get a roof on the Center Haverhill Armory. The little end room right now where the temporary hold shelter is, it leaks. And so the big concern for me right now is to stop the water from getting into that room. And so I'm going out and seeking quotes for just construction of a simple roof. So I'm working on that now. I want to get a roof on that before we get too far into the summer. And there are some other things that we'll be putting out to bid, like plumbing services, hazard tree removal, eventually the granite blocks, oil and propane group bid, roadside, trailside mowing, if the highway department does not choose to do that themselves, because Colton has priced out renting that equipment and he thinks he can do it for $3,000 or $4,000 cheaper than what we have paid. So
Bridget, if I may interrupt for a second,
sure.
please. In the French Pond Road, you have a 2% grade listed.
Yep.
And I know this sounds kind of foolish. I know you think that's probably enough, otherwise it wouldn't be in there, but I guess my comment is it really enough?
That's standard. 2% grade from Crown is standard for a paved road.
Okay.
You would do a little bit more on gravel.
Yes, I would. Then on gravel. Look, we wanted to lean closer to 2.5 or 3% slope on Lily Pond Road, and you see what we got.
You
The
got
road,
flat on one side and like
well,
4% on the
that's an
other.
issue. But roads, all of them, Bridget, flatten out. They flatten out very, very soon. And I would go no less than 2.5. The quicker you can get the water to the ditch and keep the ditch cleaned out and make it work. That came from me, and that was going to be one of the things. Please put the grade up there. You're not going to slide off the road.
Okay.
No less than 2.5.
Please consider that at least, Bridget.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Was that the only comment?
No, I just hope that there's an awful lot being laid on the road agent this year. To get everything done before cold weather, you got to keep him busy.
He's got to keep him busy.
Well,
He's got, this is the thing that with Colton, he is a go-getter and he's sharp, and I encourage him often to delegate. And just like you often tell me to delegate, it's really important for him for me to make sure that he's using his guys to their fullest and giving them opportunities to expand their horizons. So, and I think he's doing that. He's a perfectionist, so he has a hard time delegating, just like I tend to have a hard time delegating.
I think he really is. The projects that he's done, the bidding process of the gravel, the sand, everything, and making sure on yardages, everything, and taking on a couple weeks work of mowing roadsides. That's quite a project when you have last 2 or 3 years. I think maybe we can do a better job with our own people than to hire it out. And
Right.
But the French Pond Road project, there's a lot when they're doing the culverts, the ditches, the trees, and everything. We're well into summer now, and I just hope he can get it done. There's a lot,
Yep.
lot to bite off.
So we're all pitching in. So just so everyone's aware right now, Sherry stepped up to the plate, and she and Mona actually have put together all of the construction easements and put all the packages together and mailed those out to all of the residents along French Pond Road where we need to collect a construction easement, and they're going to do follow-up phone calls just to check in with residents and get those easements executed, because that's the first step. And we already have started receiving them, so the public is sending them back already, which is fantastic. That's helpful for us. He's already marked all of the culverts that need to be replaced. He's lined up his contractor for that. He's also arranged for DigSafe to come out and do their approval of those culvert locations. So he can do that prior to the easements being executed. We need those easements to get in there and do all of the tree removal. He's been reaching out, and so am I, to try to find a group of contractors that do that type of work and have time in their schedules to come out and do tree removals. However, we ideally would love to get all the tree removals done and coordinating with the utilities to remove whatever they can remove. We need them to move a couple of poles as well. So he's already been reaching out to the utility companies, and he's gotten some calls back from them, because there's 2 different utility companies at least that he needs to coordinate with.
Good.
So all of that work is already in process. And so as soon as we can find a tree company and get some dates from the utility companies, I really think we're on our way to getting it done. You know, ideally, I'd like to have all of that work done, the clearing, the grubbing, the tree removals, the culvert replacements, done before the paving company comes in and starts their work. And the reason we did that was because we wanted the paving company to really focus on the road and get the road done right. And we don't want to muck up that brand new road with all of this other work. So we want that work done before the paving company gets there. So anyway, I really think we're on our way to having all of the preliminary work done to be ready for the paving company. And that's actually, if you look at the new specs that I sent today, you'll see that we pushed the start date back because Colton needed more time. So I asked him to be realistic and give me, tell me when can you have it done? And he gave me a date, and that's what we put in there. So I think we're good.
The only other thing that I wanted to say about the input, over the years, installing culverts, you got some corrected that were put in at the wrong angle without headers and sluiceways at the end. But it's really important in New England to get the material back around the culvert that belongs there. If you do it too well and you put sand in, they're going to they'll stay down, but the road heaves up a little bit in the spring, and vice versa. So the material pretty much got to follow what is there with the road to make the culvert stay in the right place. And plastic ones don't stay quite in the same place that metal ones do. So I think Colton seems to be up on most of this, and this is just observations I've made over a number of years. But
Yeah.
I hope it comes out. I hope it comes out well.
I do too. I really do. And I give Colton a lot of credit. Him and Lester walked that entire 2 miles looking at all the different culverts and looking at their condition, looking at the ditches, watching water flow. They're going to add a couple of culverts where there aren't culverts now. They're going to be creating ditches where there aren't ditches. He's really thought this through, and I have a lot of faith in him. So and we also have, the good part too is we've actually met with a couple of different contractors over the last year who had ideas about French Pond Road, and you get a lot of good information from talking to various people in the industry who have ideas. So it's helpful. It's helpful for you to offer that information. It's helpful for contractors to offer information. And it's good to partner with other road agents. So when Colton does that all the time.
It seems really good to have, comments coming in from Mountain Lakes about somebody taking care of the roads out there. In the past, there weren't many good comments that ever came from Mountain Lakes, and
to have that when you sent to us the other day, that says a lot for the road department, and it made me feel pretty good too. So
Yeah. No, I
I
love that.
won't make your manager's list here, make it go on any longer. I'm getting tired. I just wanted to say before I fell asleep here.
Okay, well, I'll be quick. So the airport,
hold
Dean
on,
Memorial
hold on.
Airport
Whoa,
study.
I got one more thing.
Oh, Fred has a question.
No, I got a couple of statements. First of all, you said you reached out to the property owners along French Pond Road.
We are doing, the easement letters and agreements went out in the mail.
Did you send anything to Mountain Lakes? Because they may own property on French Pond Road.
They're a property owner along the stretch of road where the trees will be removed, yes.
Okay.
Not every property owner has property where the trees will be removed.
Okay. I just want to make sure they get information if they own property. Secondly, Mountain Lakes water system goes along French Pond Road and under French Pond Road, and it is far from the best. So if you could get a hold of Don Drew and talk to Don Drew before he starts, because there's some real wonderful piping down there that's something else.
He's actually met us out there a couple of times already.
Okay.
And the specs went out to Bob Long today as part of the distribution. So hopefully he shares that with Don.
Could you send a copy, please? Okay, never mind. My wife said it's okay. They got it.
Okay, they got it.
I know. Sometimes I know what happens with paperwork sometimes, but she says they got it. So
Okay.
Good. We're good.
Perfect. All right. So no movement on the committees, commissions, and boards handbook, but one of the things that you all noticed in the last couple of weeks is that Joanna has taken over the minutes. So that's why this is not, finishing this has not been the priority lately. I've had other things that I've had her doing, so she will get back to that. We've already talked about the bypass trail, Black Mount Trail, nothing new. I'm still waiting on an appraisal. Central Forest intersection. So I don't know where we were at the last meeting, but I have heard from District 2. They have approved our excavation permit. They sent me a diagram today of what they want done at that intersection. And they have removed the granite curbing from the design. They also said that they went out and marked where the pavement is to be removed. And all they're asking for is for the pavement to be removed, for us to loam and seed it, and then add some gravel shoulder work. So that's pretty much all that they want done there, which is great for us because it's going to cost a lot less, and it's going to almost nothing actually, because we have a lot of those materials. And it's going to take a lot less time than having to install vertical granite curbing. So that's good news for us. And it's good that they marked it. They already checked the utilities, so we're good with that too. And now I'm just waiting for the final paperwork to come in the mail and we'll schedule it. Town clerk, we have advertised the deputy town clerk position, and we have already received one resume. So that's good. Tax collector, Melinda is back to her normal hours at the dentist office. So she, because of COVID, was not working at the dentist office, but they have now reopened. So she is back there and doing Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, but she'll be going back to her regular days of just Thursdays and Fridays. She's getting ready to execute the 2019 liens on June 19th. Nothing really new for property records. We still have building permits, intents to cut, and whatnot coming in pretty regularly. So we haven't really seen much of a slowdown with that. Planning and zoning, there was nothing new. We're working through the bonds for gravel pits. And I don't know if Jennifer can give any new update on bonds for gravel pits, where we stand on that.
I haven't heard anything further than when the last meeting when we met. So.
Okay. Highway department. We've talked a lot about the highway department tonight, so I won't go through all of this. We talked about most of it anyway. Oh, the only other thing about the highway department is the cemetery road paving project will start on June 29th, the week of June 29th. They're expecting to be out there that Monday. However, depending on weather, it might be sometime, you know, it'll be that week that they do the cemetery road paving. Dean Memorial Airport. So this is an interesting development over at the Dean Memorial Airport. As everyone knows, we were awarded a grant by the Walmart Corporation for picnic tables for the airport, the parks, through Parks and Rec. And Joe Longacre came and offered pavers to go under the picnic table areas. So Ralph and Dan have actually been cutting the sod and creating these areas for the pavers. And then Joe Longacre is going to come in and install the pavers as a donation toward that project, which is very, very nice of him to do that. It's going to look beautiful. It's also going to cut down on the need for weed whacking and maintaining the grass under the picnic tables. It'll be really formal, nice areas for picnicking over at the airport. Maintenance department is still working on PD renovations. And then he'll be moving across the hall to work on the town administration office and the town clerk's office. So specifically, we are enclosing the waiting areas in those two offices in preparation for an anticipated reopening by appointment in July. These two renovations are recommended, and they're also going to be covered under the Gopher grant to protect employees and the public who are coming in and asking, you know, using our services. So hopefully we can get those two waiting areas enclosed with glass windows, kind of like what you would see in the welfare office. If you've ever been in the welfare office, it'll look a lot like that, but it'll be covered by grant funding. Welfare department just continues to see homelessness and an increase in motel stays, hotel stays, because the shelters are still not accepting clients. Nothing really new in the PD except that Mike Domenico was promoted to corporal. And that's pretty much it. We're still recruiting and doing the analysis for the select board. Hoping to have that done in the next couple of months. Emergency management and public health, I'm going to lump those together. Gary Hebert serves both roles, and he has been fielding a number of calls through a variety of means from the public regarding COVID. It's related to COVID-19, concerns of the public that either businesses and people running businesses aren't wearing masks, or people who are going to the restaurants or going into these places are not wearing masks. People are standing too close together. You know, there aren't proper social distancing protocols. Those are the types of complaints that he's gotten. I've gotten those complaints. Others in our offices have gotten those complaints, and it's our role to then pass those on to Gary as our health officer. His responsibility is to then go out and follow up with the business or the group of people who are on the basketball court or whatever the complaint may be, and have an education session with them. So it's his job to try to educate them what the emergency orders are, what the proper protocols are, and the risks. If he has to go to a business more than once, he has been directed by the Attorney General's office and the Department of Public Health to then pass that report on to the police chief, who is then supposed to go out and do the same thing. Have a educational session, you know, discussion with the group of people or the business or whatever. They've been doing that, and I think it's gone fairly well. Most businesses have been accommodating and understanding. Groups of people, not as much, but you know, the public has the right to pretty much do what they want to do, because there are recommendations under the emergency orders. But anyway, the chief of police does have the authority to write citations. He has not, they have not, the police force in Haverhill has not done that to date. They have not written any citations. They've taken the role of educators more than correctors. So I've already told you the AP pool will not be opening this year. We just couldn't see how we were going to pull that one off. However, Sherry's been doing Zoom classes. Those are going really, really well. We've gotten actually a really, really positive response to the Zoom classes. There are a lot of individuals who are participating over Zoom who are now saying they want to keep doing it over Zoom. They just prefer to be at home at 9 a.m. instead of actually having to go somewhere at 9 a.m. So Sherry's considering keeping that going over Zoom moving forward and having in-person classes when she can open up in-person classes. HARP summer program, we decided that we would not open HARP for June. However, we're really hoping that we can come up with some type of summer program for July or maybe August, but we haven't gotten there yet. What Sherry did was she put together a survey. She sent that out to HARP parents and she's gathering feedback from them. New Hampshire Beautiful Litter Program is formally over, but we are still, we still have blue bags and we still have gloves. And anyone who wants to come and get a blue bag and gloves and collect trash is welcome to do so. They're at the JRN building in front of the gym. And you can drop those blue bags into the town dumpster, either behind the highway garage or the JRN building. Hazen Park is where Sherry is now holding Friday senior stretch classes with social distancing. She sets up chairs that are 6 feet apart. And she has had anywhere from, you know, a large crowd, well, large, 10 to 2. So it just depends on the weather really, and it depends on how cool it is. And, but she's had a good group and, you know, it just kind of fluctuates every Friday. So she's still there every Friday and she welcomes participation. She has decided that if she ends up with more than the proper number for a group, she's going to do 2 groups. Mona would run one and she would run the other in the park. So if 15 or 20 people showed up, she would split them into 2 groups so that we were still meeting the emergency orders. Railroad Park and Caboose, Sherry is has gotten a group together who are going to paint the caboose. There was paint purchased previously. I don't know exactly when, before I came to Haverhill, so over a year ago. And that paint was located and now is in Sherry's possession, and she has a group of people who are going to paint the caboose. That's what the paint was intended for. Community garden is in full swing. There's going to be at least 1 picnic table from the grant that will go there. And that is it for me. I will be on vacation from June 10th to June 17th. And while I am gone, I will be directing emails to Jennifer and to Darwin. Any questions?
How long can it be before we have meetings face to face?
Well, Jennifer and I sat in on a town manager's call on the reopening of town halls. So it was towns across the state, New Hampshire Municipal Association, the governor's office, and a few other entities that were on the call that talked about that on the reopening of town halls. And it's kind of all over the place. Most are just now starting to put together reopening plans. So we have been provided a couple of different drafts of plans that generally are being used by most towns as a template. And so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take those plans and we're going to take a look at the time frame. Some town halls are talking about opening only to appointments, not public meetings, as of June 15th. A lot of others are waiting until July, until the first Monday in July, which I think is the 6th. So there's a lot of them waiting until the 6th, and then they're going to start opening for appointment. Not many of them are talking about public meetings face-to-face yet. So I'm not really sure when the appropriate time will be for allowing public meetings face-to-face. I know that the Airport Commission is talking about maybe trying to hold their meeting maybe in the gym with social distancing in July, but not June. So I'm shooting for July. I'm hoping for July. If we don't see anything crazy happen in the next month, I think we're going to be safe to start moving in that direction in July. I hope. I'm welcome input.
Sooner the better.
Yeah.
As long as it's safe, sooner the better.
Yeah. And as long as we're allowed. Yeah. So I think that we're allowed to have public meetings. The problem is that when you all start meeting in person again, are we obligated to then have that physical space open to the public, and how do we keep that under the limit without excluding anyone? That's kind of where, you're trying to navigate all of that at the same time. So when the governor opens things up more, it'll be easier to make that call and say, hey, we could just set up in the gym and everybody's going to stay this far apart. But right now it's still a limited number of people that could be in the gym even under those circumstances. So
another question. I got an email from you that said the deputy town clerk has to be a Haverhill resident. I find that interesting.
And that's because it's a deputy and not a hired assistant. So we could, and Jennifer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I've had a lot of input on this, but the distinction that I've been told is that if we hired an assistant town clerk through regular means of hiring somebody like that,
Right.
They would just be an assistant. A deputy town clerk is actually someone that Tina gets to choose. And if she had to step down, that person would actually step into that elected role. So it's because they would end up in that role as the formal town clerk, if something was to happen to Tina or she stepped down, that they have to be a resident just like Tina. Now, if it was just someone we hired to assist her and couldn't formally step in as town clerk, it would be different. But she's hiring a deputy.
Thank you.
That's my understanding of the distinction. Do you understand it that way, Jennifer?
Because Tina's position is elected, and in order to be elected in the town, you have to be a resident. A deputy has to have that same qualifications that the town clerk has. So, deputy, if the town clerk were unable to fulfill their duties at any time, the deputy could step up. So yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for Bridget? Comments? Next up is Finance Officer's Report and Comments.
I just got an update. And,
I can't hear you very well, Jennifer.
Yeah.
You can hear me very well?
No, you sound like you're underwater.
Can you hear me?
Not good. Maybe if you log out and log back in.
Okay. Maybe my battery's dying, so maybe. Oh. Log out and back in.
She'll be right back. Did your wife and grandson abandon you, Steve?
Yeah, the mosquitoes are a little tough out here.
It's getting dark.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting past my bedtime too, so.
Well, you're old.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I deserve that after my naming you comment. That's all right. That's fair.
That's okay.
Can you hear me
It's
any
all
better?
fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So as I was starting to say, I'd mentioned to Bridget earlier that and she knew we had gotten the first responder stipend. The amount that we received was a little bit less. I have since gotten clarification just about an hour ago from the state. about what that difference is. And so the actual amount is $20,071.47. It's a difference of about $85. So,
What was that for? Was that tax or?
it was, one of the officers was only in for a 2-week period, and it was calculating 2 weeks and 2 days. And they took off the 2 extra days. And then there was, I guess, some rounding errors in the original spreadsheet. So there was like 14 cents that was attributed to that. So I feel good with the amount that we received. I got an email from Sherry earlier this evening. Nicole Kidder would like to become a Parks and Recreation member. So if we want to invite her, if you guys want, we can invite her to the next meeting and you can do the interview and stuff like that. Just let me know and then we can send her that stuff. So is that something that you guys want to do?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And as usual, we forward our questions to them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And if
Okay.
she can't make it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
So as we talked about earlier, I forwarded you the elderly exemptions, disabled exemptions, charitable exemptions, and veterans credits. So if you can review those before the next meeting, if you have any questions, email me. And if I don't have the answer, I will check with Tim so that we can have any answers for you before the next meeting. Some of the things elderly exemption and disabled exemption both have asset and income requirements that need to be met. We can't really discuss those in a public meeting, but we can adjourn into a non-public. So if there's any there that you have questions on, we would have to go into non-public. And if you let us know ahead of time, we can put that on the agenda. We also have a hardship abatement that we need to review. Tim had been reviewing it, but after discussing it with Bridget, we think that it's better if it's handled in our office. Tim deals with the assessment of properties, and hardship abatements deal with income and asset stuff. We can work with Amanda if she has any information on these clients as well. That will be a non-public for the next meeting to go over that with you. And we'll get you the information ahead of time on that. And I think that's about all I have for tonight.
Any questions for Jennifer? Comments? Gentlemen? Okay. Moving on, commission committee reports. Anyone?
I was unable to get to the Recreation Committee, so I don't have a report. They had a meeting Wednesday night.
So in the past, Steve, what's happened, and you have no reason to know this, but if a board member can't make a meeting, call me, email me, or text me.
Okay.
And what happens is I try to fill in.
Okay.
Not that it's life or death, but I've been able to do that in the past. So keep that in mind, please.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Can I just make a comment? As you all know, planning and zoning was the same night as the last Board of Selectmen's meeting. So Howard wasn't able to attend. I was kind of doing double duty, listening to both meetings at the same time. One of the things that they suggested in their meeting was that if we know that we're going to have a conflict and have both meetings on the same night, if we can let them know and they'll adjust their schedule.
So are you going to forward them our meeting schedule?
Yeah, we can do that. We can have that coordinated through Diane, who usually books all the meetings and stuff and puts them on the calendar. So if we see a conflict, we can let them know. But
Good.
because they really have been wanting Bridget there for the past couple meetings, and she's had conflicts and stuff and hasn't been able to get to the meeting stuff, and they weren't happy that their rep couldn't be there either. So they have a lot of questions.
Okay.
So.
Okay. It's good that they're willing to work with us, be flexible. That's appreciated. Correspondence, is there any correspondence from anyone? No correspondence. Comments of select board members, any comments?
Just
I have a
one thing.
couple. Whoop, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I did get an email today. Jennifer, you got an email too, that I'll be forwarding to all of you. It came late today, so I don't think it's, we're not going to talk about it tonight, but just to pre-warn you that there will be something coming. And I don't know, Jennifer, it's regarding the Great River Hydro, so I'm not sure if that needs to be addressed prior to the next meeting, or if this was just informational, but one way or the other, I'll get it out to you and with some more information.
Thank you.
Did you have a chance to read that, Jennifer?
No.
Okay. Anyway, I'll reach out. I just wanted to pre-warn you that there is something coming from regarding Great River.
So just a couple quick things on my part. One is I want to say thank you to Joe and Margot for the pavers at the airport. I actually wondered what that was about because I drove by and I saw like a hole underneath one of the picnic tables or something there. So that's really good. Thank you. Thank you both for that. And tonight, gentlemen and Bridget and Jennifer, so it's been kind of a long night, but I think it's been very productive. So it's been a really good night. So thank you for that as well. Any other comments? We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Matt.
I'll second it. Steve.
There is no discussion. All those in favor, aye. Those opposed, nay. Fred,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Darwin, aye. It's unanimous. Good night, gentlemen. Have a good week.
Night.
Night.
Thank you. See you in a week.
Have fun.